Hey there guys and girls, it's me, it's your host Grifter. Hey, welcome to my channel, this is RetroProductions. I know, we've come from a long way. This channel actually exists more than 10 years. It's from 2006 my channel, so you do the math. Whatever, I'll do it for you. It's 13 years, so I've been around for 13 years. So one might guess I'm not that popular. I know, I've got the channel views, that's a fact. But I don't got the subs, but I don't give a fuck. Yeah, I said fuck. I can't use those words on my channel. And I got you. Yeah, you. The ones who did sub or the ones that, I don't know, accidentally just popped up here. But I'm happy you did. Oh yeah. And I'm gonna tell you something more about me, because this is actually something I never did before. It has to be a first for anything, right? So let me start off with, hello, I'm Grifter, but I already told you that, so that's kinda silly. My real name is Alan, or Alain if you would say it in Dutch. And please no, I'm not talking about Alain van Damme, which is quite popular in this region.
Wie dat ik ben, hè? Alain van Dam. Dam, tadam, dam, dam.
Je kunt uw lach niet veranderen. Nee? Doe nog eens. Nee, Alain. Nog eens. Nee. Nog eens.
So like, I'm totally not that guy, okay? We got that straight. So I'm 42 years old, if I'm correct, if I'm not missing a year. Could be though. No, it's 42, please. Don't let it be older. Oh boy, that would be a real face slap if I would be older. Anyways, I don't end up like this guy.
Oh, shit, son.
Wait, let's watch that again.
Oh, shit, son.
Oh, jeez, that had to hurt. So, but I wanted to elaborate a bit more of who I am and where I came from. So I come from Belgium, and since I'm 6 years old, I was really fascinated by UFOs. But at home we had a book about great mysteries of the world, Bermuda Triangle, stuff like that. That really, I don't know, pitched my brains. But not only conspiracies, to be honest. Science was something I was really interested as well. I was still pretty young, but I saw a very cool, well, I don't know, interview on the BBC. There was not such a thing as digital television back in my time. So we were stuck with just basic cable television, which had like around 12 channels. Most of them German, Italian, French, and a few Dutch ones. Oh, and English, of course. I loved Club Dorothée. That's where I was introduced to animes. But so as a kid I was also pretty interested in documentaries. Though it be nature or science. Or just unbelievable stuff, I don't know. I just loved that stuff. Having a multicultural family was pretty beneficial for me when it comes to languages. So I could understand and speak French when I was pretty young, and English I could understand pretty good. But Richard Feynman was one of the first scientist guys who really got me into the science kind of stuff. It wasn't that old BBC documentary I was talking about a few minutes ago, where I saw this.
It's interesting that some people find science so easy and others find it kind of dull and difficult. Especially kids, you know, some of them are just eat it up. And I don't know why it is. It's the same perhaps for all subjects. For instance, lots of people love music and I never could carry a tune. And I lose a great deal of pleasure out of that. And I think people lose a lot of pleasure who find the science dull. In the case of science, I think that one of the things that make it very difficult is it takes a lot of imagination. It's very hard to imagine all the crazy things that things really are like.
So that was it? He didn't need to say more. I mean, imagining things, that was about my greatest ability. If I would have had a superpower, it would be the power of imagining things. I was pretty good at that. Besides the way how he explained things, like heating up things, like feeling warm or cold, the way he really showed it. Like, it really works. It's wow. As a kid, I remember asking my dad if he could explain more if he could show me how it actually works. It was so mind-boggling. But let me show me a few things of him, and I'm gonna put on some music that I chose to be playing on it, even with sound effects of planes. You can combine stuff of what he said with music, and it's so epic. And that guy, he looks so cute. It's weird to be saying that of an old man, but his cuddle factor is really high.
Nothing's really as it seems. We're used to get, hot and cold, and all that hot and cold is the speeds that the atoms are jiggling. If they jiggle more, it corresponds to hotter, and colder is jiggling less. So if you have a bunch of atoms, a cup of coffee or something sitting on a table, and the atoms are jiggling a great deal in the coffee, and they bounce against the cup, and the cup then gets shaking, and the atoms in the cup shake, and they bounce against the saucer, and the heat heats the cup, it heats everything else. And hot thing spreads its heat into other things by mere contact, because the atoms that are jiggling a lot in the hot thing shake the ones that are jiggling only a little bit in the cold thing, so that the hot heat, we say, goes into the cold thing. It spreads. But what's spreading is just jiggle and irregular motions, which is easy to kind of understand. It brings up another thing that's kind of curious. That I say the things jiggle, and if you're used to balls bouncing, they slow up and stop after a while. But we have to imagine with the atom a perfect elasticity. They never lose any energy. Every time they bounce, they keep on bouncing all the time. They don't lose anything. They're perpetually moving. And that the things that happen when we say something loses energy, if a ball comes down and bounces, it shakes irregularly some of the atoms in the floor. And then when it comes up again, it leaves some of those atoms moving, jiggling. So as it bounces, it's passing its extra energies, its extra motions, to little patches on the floor each time it bounces, and loses a little each time, until it settles down, we say, as if all the motion has stopped. But what's left is the floor is shaking more than it was before, and the atoms in the ball are shaking more than they were before. That the organized motion of all these atoms moving the same way, falling down, and the quiet floor is now transformed into a ball sitting on the ground. But all that motion is still there in a form, or the energy of motion, in the form of the jiggling of the floor, which is a little bit warmer. Unbelievable. But anybody who's hammered a great deal on something knows that it's true, that if you pound something and hit it a lot, you can feel the temperature difference. It heats up. It heats up simply because you're jiggling it.
So you have to imagine how amazed I was with this explanation. And I kid you not, in my head I always hear music with stuff. I mean, it's so suitable. And life would be so great if there would be always a soundtrack playing in the background. I would be so successful in life. Anyways, I'm gonna continue a bit more of Richard, and I'm gonna play some other music this time. But same subject. That guy is amazing.
This picture of atoms is a beautiful one, that you can keep looking at all kinds of things this way. You see a little drop of water, a tiny drop, and the atoms attract each other. They like to be next to each other. They want as many partners as they can get. Now, the guys that are at the surface have only partners on one side here, in the air on the other side, so they're trying to get in. And you can imagine this team of people, these teeming people, all moving very fast, all trying to have as many partners as possible. And the guys at the edge are very unhappy and nervous, and they keep pounding in, trying to get in, and that makes it a tight ball instead of a flat. And that's what, surface tension, the way when you see how sometimes a water drop sits like this on a table, then you start to imagine why it sits like that, because everybody's trying to get into the water. And at the same time, while all this is happening, there are these atoms that are leaving the surface, and the water drop is slowly disappearing from each other. They're in a nice pattern, like oranges in a crate, in a nice organized pattern, all just jiggling in place, but not having enough motion to get loose of their own place and to break the structure down. And that's what I'm describing as a solid. It's ice. It has a structure. If you held the atoms at one end in a certain position, all the rest are lined up in a position sticking out, and it's solid at the end. Whereas if you heat that harder, then they begin to get loose and roll all over each other, and that's the liquid. And if you heat that still harder and they bounce harder, then they simply bounce apart from each other, and they're just individual, I say atoms, there's really little groups of atoms, molecules, which come flying and hit. And although they have a tendency to stick, they're moving too fast. Their hands don't grab, so to speak, as they pass, and they fly apart again. And this is the gas we call steam. You can get all kinds of understanding. When I was a kid with this air, which I was always interested in, I noticed that when I pumped up my tires with a bicycle, you can learn a lot by having a bicycle. I pump up the tires that the pump would get hot. And that also understandable. See, as the pump handle comes down and the atoms are coming up against it and bouncing off, and it's moving in, the ones that are coming off have a bigger speed than the ones that are coming in, so that as it comes down, each time they collide, it speeds them up. And so they're hotter. When you compress the gas, it heats. And when you pull the piston back out, then atoms which are coming fast at the piston feel a receding or sort of a give. It gives, and it comes out with less energy. It's like going up against something which is soft and yielding. It goes boom, boom, and it loses. So as you pull the piston out and the atoms are hit, they lose their speed and they cool off. And gases cool when they expand. And the fun of it is that all these things which you see or notice in the world about it, the pump heats the gas, or the gas cools when it expands, or the steam evaporates until you cover the cover, and all these things you can understand from these simple pictures. And that's kind of a lot of fun to think about. I don't want to take this stuff seriously. I think we should just have fun imagining it and not worry about it. There's no teacher going to ask you questions at the end. Otherwise, it's a horrible subject. The atoms like each other to different degrees. Oxygen, for instance, in the air would like to be next to carbon, and if they get near each other, they snap together. If they're not too close, though, they repel and they go apart, so they don't know that they could snap together. It's just as if you had a ball that was trying to climb a hill and there was a hole it could go into, like a volcano hole, a deep one. It's rolling along, it doesn't go down in the deep hole, because if it starts to climb the hill and then rolls away again. But if you made it go fast enough, it'll fall into the hole. And so if you have something like wood in oxygen, there's carbon in the wood from a tree, and the oxygen comes and hits it, carbon, but not hard enough. It just goes away again. The air is always coming, nothing's happening. If you can get it faster, by heating it up somehow, get it started. A few of them come fast. They go over the top, so to speak. They come close enough to the carbon and snap in. And that gives a lot of jiggly motion, which might hit some other atoms, making those go faster so they can climb up and bump against other carbon atoms. And they jiggle, and they make others jiggle, and you get a terrible catastrophe, which is one after the other. All these things are going faster and faster and snapping in, and the whole thing is changing. That catastrophe is a fire. It's just a way of looking at it, and these things are happening. They perpetual. Once it gets started, it keeps on going. The heat makes the other atoms capable of reaching to make more heat to make other atoms, and so on. So this terrible snapping is producing a lot of jiggling. And if I put, with all that activity of the atoms there, and I put a cup of coffee over that mess of wood that's doing this, it's going to get a lot of jiggling. So that's what the heat of the fire is. And then, of course, if you see, this is what happens when you start to think. You just go on and on. You wonder where. How did it get started? Why is it that the wood's been sitting around all this time with the oxygen all this time, and it didn't do this earlier or something? Where did I get this from?
So I think it's time for me to stop this, I know, special. Of course, no, it's going to take too long. But I'll continue this series from time to time. Of course, I didn't get that far. I didn't even get to my gaming part, which is a huge part of RetroProductions as well. Anyways, much appreciated for the ones watching this. And if you pop by here by mistake, and you did like it, check out more and be sure to subscribe so you never miss any more. Bye bye guys and girls, Grifter signing out.